I'm Chris Gardner of the Houston Round Ball Review, and joining me is Mr. John Williams, Vice President of Big 12 Men's Basketball. Did I get that right, sir?
You got that right.
Mr. Williams, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks a lot, Chris.
And explain to us, me included, what part of your duties as the VP of Big 12 Men's Basketball?
Well, I oversee the operations for men's basketball, from scheduling to officiating to disciplinary things that happen that may come up, as well as the postseason tournament and overseeing that.
How'd you get this job? How long you been with the Big 12?
Been with the Big 12 to be 2 years next in June, and I've been through 2 championships already. Started out as a college basketball coach many years ago, and did that for a few years, and then got out of it. Worked for the NCAA for about 12 and a half years, running championships, and then got back on campus as an athletic director for a few years down at the Incarnate Word, and then got a call to come up to the Southland Conference here in Frisco, and was deputy commissioner there for 4 years, and then had the opportunity to come across town to be at the Big 12. So I've been a blessed man to be on the trail that I'm on right now.
Indeed, and I did a little bit of research. You also were a very good basketball player in college, sir.
Not bad. I was okay.
Well, if you don't mind, just because I think you played basketball at Ball State, so
Right.
describe your game and how long have you loved basketball?
Basketball's been my life for a long time. As a kid, I can remember playing. I grew up in a neighborhood where we had a community center, and every night we were playing basketball, and so it was just in my blood. And was fortunate to play on a good high school team at Richmond High School in Richmond, Indiana, and then went to Ball State and played there. Actually played center in high school and ended up playing some point guard in college. So played the 1 and the 3, and was very fortunate to get to the NCAA tournament one of those years I was there, and we won the conference twice. And then about 5 years later, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I was very fortunate for that, and then got a chance to coach my alma mater. I was a assistant coach right out of school full time, and got into it. Did it for 17 years. Coached at some small schools, one in Indiana, Earlham College, and then went on to Wisconsin in the Big Ten and coached there for 3 years, and then went back and was athletic director and basketball coach at NAIA school, and then finished up at IPFW, which is now called Purdue Fort Wayne, which is in Division I school now. And then, like I said, then went to the NCAA and was a director of championships there and ran championships.
Well, you've seen a lot of various levels of basketball in your lifetime. How has basketball changed from an administration point of view?
Well, I was very fortunate to be able to coach at every level, and except for junior college. And as far as the play itself, the kids playing, there's not a lot of difference other than they're bigger, stronger, faster, quicker than they used to be back in my day. But I think that the obvious change in the game is where we're going now with NIL and transfer portal and those kind of things. You're seeing a different mindset from the student athletes as far as what their focus is on where they go to school at. The kids are used to going to school and plan on being there 4 years, getting a degree, and there's some loyalty to staying at the school that they went to, and now kids are moving around yearly, and it's changed everything now.
You mentioned that you've been in Big 12 soon to be 2 years, and you worked 2 of the conference championships. I think that would straddle 2 different commissioners, Commissioner Bowlsby and now Commissioner Yormark. What were the differences between the 2 championships that you noticed?
Well, obviously, Bob had been here for a while, and the championship had done very well in Kansas City, and Still does. Bob did a great job. Love him to death for what he did for me and give me the opportunity, but also just what he's done there. When it looked like the conference was getting ready to go down, he managed to get out there and get schools like Houston and BYU, Central Florida, and Cincinnati to come into the league, and in fact, I think it's strengthened us even more. We'll find out here next year, but it looks like it on paper. We've got some great teams coming in to help us continue to grow our basketball. Uh, Commissioner Yormark has come in, and they're totally different guys, and they come from totally different backgrounds. One's more of a scholastic guy, and Bob has been in college for most of his life and been around the game, and Brett's been in different areas and comes from an entertainment world, comes from a professional world, and has a different working background and the way he does things. So, but Brett's come in and hit the ground running and made some things happen quickly, especially the TV rights with ESPN and Fox, and solidified that in probably about 3 months' time, which is really unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
But has done a great job there. He brings a lot of different things that the traditional college atmosphere is not used to. Just bringing in the entertainment world to and combining both of them. Has done a great job of opening up different revenue avenues that we've not been able to do before, just because of his contacts and direction. He's a workaholic, but at the same time, he's a great guy to work for. But he does a lot of good things, has done a lot of good things, and will continue to do a lot of good things. I like the joke about it sometimes. He came in and just started throwing stuff against the wall, and what stick we went after, what didn't stick, we figured out why it didn't, and figured out a new way of getting it done. And he's done a great job of doing that. And so, you look at the football championship, we have Ashanti singing the national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
We have some different things going on outside of just the championship itself, and you're going to see bigger and more things happen next year. The basketball tournament, he comes in, and his background of being at the Barclays Center in New Jersey, he was able to look at the venue and say, hey, there's an opportunity to raise more, make more money by moving these seats out and moving them up top for the media, and making these more kind of like the Lakers seats on the floor and
Mm-hmm.
different things like that, and just has a vision for that kind of stuff. Created a high-end restaurant back house for those seats to be able to, people that bought those seats to be able to go back there and have dinner during and after the game. Just different ideas like that. We had Shaq come and do a concert at the basketball tournament as a DJ. Turned out to be a great thing. He actually came and watched some of the games, the semifinal games, sit on the front row and watch the games. So brought some high exposure there. Fat Joe came in and did a
Mm-hmm.
concert as well. Had the Jordan Sparks sing the national anthem. So he's brought in some entertainment to go along with the sports, and it's really taken off well.
Do you have any other ideas that the commissioner might have in store for entertainment for next year's Big 12 basketball tournament?
Well, we just, it's a day-to-day thing. We just wait and see what he comes up with next. But he's always got something going on, ideas going on. One of the other things we're doing is looking at the possibility of taking one of our games actually to Mexico. Just got back from Mexico yesterday. Him and I looking at the possibility of taking one of our games to Mexico and playing it during the 24-25 season. And just kind of taking, he's big on wanting to try to expand our brand and taking it international. So that's one way of doing it. Looking at doing a few things: football, basketball, baseball, maybe even soccer, going in that area. So like I said, his mind is always going. He's always trying to think of new ways to build our brand, to help our student athletes accomplish other things, and he's done a really good job. And to your point, we're not sure. It's a day-to-day thing, and we just wake up and see what he's got next for us.
You mentioned one of your duties is involving scheduling. How does that? What is your idea of a great schedule? How does that come together? The scheduling aspect of it for teams.
Well, I tell you, before I got here, I used to have to do the scheduling by myself and by hand, and
Okay.
that was a challenge.
Hmm.
But now we have a young man that does it, and he does most of the conferences in Division 1. But we come up with the parameters that we want to look at, whether it's nobody plays 2 games in a row on the road or at home to start or end the season, so nobody gets those kind of advantages. So those kind of things go into the mix. He plugs them into the computer, and then it spits out a schedule for us. And then from there, what we do is look at the schedule to make sure nobody's playing more than 3 games in a row, one way or the other, on the road or at home, or anything like that. And then we send it off to ESPN, and then the ESPN looks at their platforms and places them on TV where those games will be at, and then we go back to the schedule and look at it and make sure again once they've finished their part that there's no discrepancy with the criteria. And then from there, we send it out to the coaches and let them go with it. The coaches have no say so in it. They have some complaints about it, but they have
Okay.
no say so in it. And it's worked out pretty good.
Now,
This coming year, we'll go with, we one twist we'll have going into this year, adding the 4 teams. Well, obviously be at 14 teams. Normally we've played a 18 game schedule, double round robin.
mhm,
Everybody plays each other. This coming year, it'll be a team will play 5 teams twice and 8 teams once to get to
mhm.
the 18 games. So we're still working on the schedule for next year. Just started. We want to wait till the end of the season so that we can figure out the data from the 4 teams coming in to add it to the existing teams, and then we'll determine who the 5 teams are that everybody will play twice, and then figure out who those teams are that you'll play once.
In regarding parameters, do you have does the conference encourage the coaches to play X amount of power conference teams, or don't play this many lower major teams, anything like that in calculations?
We've been very, very fortunate in the last 5 or 6 years of having the strongest conference in the nation as far
Mm,
as strength of schedule. So we don't really haven't really had to say, hey, you can't play this team or you can play this team. I know some of our teams that are top ranked teams play some lower teams in the preseason, but our conference is so tough. I mean,
mm,
when you look at this year and last year, the majority of our conference games were tier 1 games
mhm.
and in the net. And so if you're playing everybody's playing tier 1 games, then you can play whoever you want to on those non-conference games almost and still be in pretty good shape. But our guys, they play a tough schedule anyway. They don't shy away from it. Kansas has the strongest schedule of anybody, and they don't shy away. They play, Duke, and they play Kentucky, and they play different schools. Gonzaga played Texas last year and played Baylor, and so we go after the top teams as well. But we'll play some schools in other conferences throughout the year, postseason or preseason. But for the most part, there's only 1 or 2 games, and then the rest of them are pretty top-notch games.
Are you involved in the conference matchups, for example, like the Big 12 versus the Big East? Are you involved in that?
Yeah. hmm Yeah, we sit down with the Big East. In fact, we started earlier this year. We wanted to get it done early, and what we do is we send out to each school, each of our schools, and say,
Mhm,
"Hey, what's your available?" That we give them the parameters of what the week time frame that we're going to play those games in. What's your availability during that time? And then we look at both. We've already had predetermined who's on the road and who's not on the road. And so then with this year coming up, the Big East has 11 teams. We have 14. So 3 of our teams will have to sit out. So because of the additions, we only took Houston into the mix, and then we left the 10 existing teams in it.
mhm.
So BYU, Cincinnati, and Central Florida will not play in it this year. But obviously, we go to 12 next year. Some of those teams may fit in there. But then we take the schedules. We both overlap our schedules as to availability, and then we see who matches up. And uh, this year, just so happened that we had Kansas and UConn matched up, which we look like scheduling geniuses, but we didn't do anything special. It just fell out that way. Marquette, Texas going to Marquette. I mean, where Shock is there. I mean,
Right.
that just happened. It did not. I know Texas fans probably think we try to stick it to them, but that's not what happened. It just fell out that way. So, it's been that way for, I guess this is the fifth year. I think they've done the Big East Challenge, and the Big East has been a battle for us.
Mm-hmm.
We've been the first year they got us pretty good before I got here, and then since then it's been pretty even. And so I think last year we won it by one game or two games, but it's a great matchup for us, a challenge for us. It gives us an opportunity to play against a top-notch opponent, Power Five opponent. Sits well with the NCAA committee when they're looking at selection processes and see that we're playing top-notch teams in quad one games, and for the most part, I think all of them were quad one except for a couple of quad two games. But that helps us in as far as when it comes down to selections as well.
How was it determined to go against another conference? Big East, ACC, Big Ten. How is that decided?
We just reached out to each other and see if there's any interest in doing it. Obviously we were playing with the SEC. This year was the last year for the SEC Challenge, but we've done that for 4 or 5 years as well. And SEC decided that they wanted to try something different, so they're playing the Big Ten next year instead of us. So it just depends. We've reached out to some other conferences, and it doesn't seem to be something they want to do right now. And so, for us, like I said, because of our strength of schedule, it doesn't hurt us as much by not playing that other game. What we're going to do and what we're looking at is doing a preseason tip-off where we play some of our teams that only play each other once in the conference. Will match up and do something and play 4 or 5 games where we kind of tip off the year and show some of our talent early on and give our teams a chance to play against, make up that Big East or that SEC game that would have been a tier 1, tier 2 game, and add this one into it. But it won't count toward their conference standing.
And when might that take place?
The first weekend of November is where we're looking at right now.
Okay, and would they be on campus sites or at a neutral site?
No, we're going to do a neutral site, and we're trying to work out those parameters right now where that'll be at.
Okay, in the next media rights deal, it will involve Fox. Has it been decided how many basketball games, will be? ESPN gets X number and Fox gets X number.
They're still working on that. That contract hasn't been signed yet, so I can't share that information. But they will have their share of games as well. Yeah, it'll be it will add more games for us to be on linear with both of them being there.
What are your thoughts on streaming and Big 12 now on ESPN Plus?
We had the Kansas State game on this year, and it was on Plus, and I was sitting there watching it along with watching some of our other games that night, and I couldn't tell the difference. I mean, they had Jay Billis on, was doing the game, and just the quality of the games now on Plus is very good. It just depends on the announcers. I think obviously people have to pay a little bit more to watch Plus, but the quality of the TV game and everything, the picture and the commentators, as long as you got some good commentators on there, you really can't tell the difference.
And how difficult is it for the conference to have a balance? You want to maintain a linear presence, obviously, but going forward with the evolution of watching games and entertainment, streaming is an issue as well. It's part of content. How
Right.
do y'all balance, what's best for the conference?
Well, we kind of lean on ESPN, and then when we get to Fox, it'll be with Fox as well. But we try to get as many games on linear as possible, because we don't want people to have to pay to watch those extra games if they don't have to. But at the same time, there's more viewership on linear than is on streaming. But it depends, and we're going to run into some of that this year with having 7 games versus 5 games on a
Hmm.
Saturday or throughout the week. There's just not a lot of enough platforms for ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, Pac-12 to be all on linear. So we just, we're kind of at the mercy of ESPN at this point, saying, okay, this is the best game for them, and they pick which games they want to put on there.
Really? Okay, so the conference does not go to ESPN and say, we want these
No,
games. Okay.
no, no, no. We give them the schedule, and they decide which games they think will best have the best viewership for them. And it's funny because sometimes, just like that Kansas State game, we had no idea Kansas State was going to be that good.
Right.
So when the schedule came out, it came out that way, and ESPN looked at it and said, "Hey, that we'll put that game on." I mean, they were last place last year, so we'll
Mhm.
put that game on Plus. And lo and behold, it was a 1-2 game.
Right.
And same thing happened the previous year with Iowa State. We didn't think. I mean, they had won 2 games the previous year, and
Mhm.
they came out of non-conference 13-0,
Mhm.
and they're playing Baylor the first game of the conference season, and we got them on Plus. And we're thinking, boy, we didn't look real smart with this. They made us look dumb by putting them on Plus, and they should have been on the ESPN game that day. But when you make the schedule, you have no idea how good people are going to be, and now it's going to be even more difficult because of the transfer portal, because you have no idea what teams are going to look like from year to year.
So it's not a conspiracy against a school. They stuck us on plus, blah blah blah. It's nothing like that. Some
No,
fan.
no. I mean, yeah. In fact, we get those calls all the time. Like, it's not fair. You're putting us on Plus. Well, we had no idea that you were going to be that good or that bad or whatever. The games came out that way, and the schedule's made. We're done 1st of September with all the TV setups and everything, so we have no idea what the game, how good those teams are going to be when we make the schedule. So from September to January, they've got time to show what they can do, but we don't change the channels at that point.
So yeah, there's no flex scheduling involved
Very
either.
seldom. I mean, if there was a window, that's all on TV. I mean, all on ESPN. We have no control over that. And in fact, like I said, the game that we had, Kansas State, had a great turnout, great viewing setup, and so it worked out great for ESPN. I'm sure they increased their sales after that game because it was pretty good. So people started looking at ESPN Plus a little differently.
Wrapping it up with Mr. John Williams, Big 12 VP of men's basketball. What are your goals that you like to get accomplished the next year or two?
Well, obviously continue to grow our sport and continue to grow our brand. And we've been very fortunate to be in the Final Four the last 4 out of 5 years, win the last 2 out of 5. And so, we want to stay right there. It's going to be a little bit different for us this year because going into 14 teams versus 10. We'll see where we end up, but I think obviously we want to stay at the top of the list as far as the best basketball in the country. And adding Houston and adding Cincinnati, BYU, and Central Florida, I think that's going to help us continue to grow. So we're just going to continue to work and do what we can to stay on top. And we know that people are gunning for us, so we got to do our best to stay there.
And just lastly, what your thoughts on the how serious is it from a executive office standpoint, the conference rivalries between you and other conferences?
Well, it's that's part of sports,
Mhm.
and we want to try to stay on top of us, be the top conference, and so we're going to do everything we can to make sure we stay there. As Brett is at the top now, he does not like to lose and does not like to be second, so he's working as hard as he can to make us the best we can be. So it's it's important for us to stay there, but that's part of it. We enjoy the rivalry. We enjoy the competition. That's why we play sports.
Will you be at the basketball tip-off in October?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to be there as well. So hopefully we can meet face to face so I can, shake your hand and thank you for taking time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it. And we'll keep in touch. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot, Chris. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.